we want to welcome to the show the COO of Bluesky, Rose Wang. Rose, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Pat and Chewie.
Very first question, the only question that really matters in my mind, because that's how much of an egotistical maniac I am. Have you spoke to any other media groups in New Zealand yet?
I don't think so. You guys might be my first.
Aye. So that means we're going to have to speak slowly because our accents are difficult sometimes. We get that, but thanks so much. It's a real. I feel like it's a real coup to get a chance to talk to you. So we appreciate you giving us some time.
I really appreciate it. Love the accent.
Oh, thank you. Flight of the Conchords all over again. We've played your video off your Bluesky feed. We're still thinking about what are we? Like on Twitter you tweet but on Bluesky you post. What are people who are on but what are people called? We got a name for Blueskyers?
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, we call people users. Probably have better names. You know what? I think we leave it up to the users to decide, just like they decided what they want to call posts that I won't say. Yeah. You're welcome to say.
Yeah. Well, now Twitter posts are called excretions, so that works quite well for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we have played your post off your feed. Right word, about 60 seconds what's Bluesky, but because we've got you here now, do you want to just tell the folks what Bluesky is, what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bluesky is creating an open social media platform that puts users first and gives people choice. What does it actually look like? I think we're used to being trapped in an algorithm that's controlled by a small group of people. And with Bluesky, that's just no longer the case. Users have built over 50,000 different feeds, including 5 cat feeds, more than 200 feeds about Taylor Swift, wrestling feeds, F1 feeds, and there's other feeds organized either chronologically or based on what your mutuals of your other followers are liking. And so the possibilities are endless. And our goal is, hey, here are these feeds that provide cozier corners to connect with other people with similar interest, because there's no single dominant algorithm that only promotes either the most polarizing post and or the biggest brands. And so you actually get to interact with real people and have fun conversations in a safer environment.
Why are people coming to Bluesky at the moment? Because we're hearing reports of 1 million people a day. What's your active user base now, and why are people coming across?
We have lots of reasons that people have come to Bluesky. So I think that in the Western world, we're suddenly hearing about Bluesky in the last few weeks. But for Bluesky, we've opened to the public since February of this year. And what happened was we get over 1 million Japanese users in February, and actually within the first week. And then sometime between April and August, we saw people come over from Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, all over the world. And so only recently has there been a very mass exodus from X, because we think probably of the elections, because that's essentially when the growth spurt happened. But to say that that is the reason why people left is probably wrong. That was the tipping point, is the way that I say it. But it's really hard for people to leave a home where they have built friends and they've had all of their data on there for a long time. And so to actually make that decision, there was probably many things that led them there.
You must be finding dual accounts. Like I'm using Twitter still and I'm using Bluesky. And part of the reason is we do this. This is what we do. Yeah. And I've got, 6,000 followers on Twitter. And it's actually a good source of getting my content out there. So are you finding most people are kind of dumping and swapping, or still doing a foot in each camp thing at the moment?
Okay, so one of my favorite things that's happened in the last few days is that creators are starting to test, if I post content on Threads, X, and Bluesky, how much engagement am I getting across these platforms? What is the rate at which traffic is sent from these platforms to the link that I'm posting? And what happens when I post a link or don't post a link? What happens when I put Bluesky in the name or not in the name? And these types of experiments have been very fascinating, because I think we've started to reveal that there are definitely dark patterns happening in the algorithm that's controlled by these companies, where The Guardian reported that in their first week on Bluesky with just 300,000 followers, they had more traffic and engagement on their post than they did on X all of 2024 with 10.8 million followers. That's pretty wild. right? And so we probably know something is happening, something is different. Hank Green, another YouTube creator, created a video where he was testing all the different posts across different platforms, and he had posted a link to his to a comedy show he was going to attend, because that's what all content creators want, is you want to build your audience and then start directing them to new and other experiences. And so he posted this link to, you know, his stand-up, and what he saw on Threads is it was like, I think 60 likes compared to most of his other posts where he gets 1,000, you know, hundreds of likes. And then on Bluesky, that same post with that link got over 1,000 likes in an hour. So something is happening with these algorithms that are controlled by Meta and by X, where they have a very different incentive than you do, Pat, than you, Chewie, right? They're trying to sell to advertisers. They're trying to lock you in. Your goal is, hey, I just want to find my people, the people who listen to us, and help direct them to whatever new thing you guys are building, or to a new like cool show that you want them to listen to. And you want to be able to have that control. And so I think that's actually what's really resonating with creators like yourselves is, hey, Bluesky might be a much better home for me, where I'm not tied to an algorithm that's a black box and that is manipulating things in ways I don't understand.
Interesting. Chewie, you were a fairly early adopter on Bluesky, eh? Why don't you throw some of your expertise at this?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined definitely towards the start of the year. I'm not sure if it was as early as February, but someone sent me an invite. And I was very disillusioned with Twitter post Elon jumping on board, and it was just more and more algorithm manipulation and putting content in front of me that was obviously designed to generate a rage reaction, because that's great for engagement, right? If I'm going to hammer away at my keyboard and wade into an argument every time I log in, fantastic engagement. What I've found on Bluesky since is exactly what you are describing. I am connecting with creators, artists that I enjoy, people that are you know, photography and merchandise and similar interests. And it's like a very organic thing. A friend of a friend has recommended this to you. Seems to be the way that it's growing for us. And to see a creator, a New Zealand creator called Pippa Raccoon, saying, I'm putting the same posts on Facebook, Twitter, Bluesky, I'm getting 6 times the engagement out of Bluesky, and it's authentic. It's generating me sales. It's people sharing things around. It's not getting manipulated, and it's obvious. So I think that stands out very strongly towards the bigger, more established players. How is that going to be maintained going forward?
That's a great question. And the thing that we keep going back to is the point of Bluesky. It's built for the people, by the people. And so how that is maintained is the same way we've grown today, which is through communities. Why are people on Bluesky? Everyone wants some sort of fancy answer about this feature or this one neat trick. And it's pretty simple. People are on Bluesky because their friends are on Bluesky. We're social, right? That's who we are as people. And so what we hope to do is we've given the toolbox to you guys, to anybody else who wants to go and build whatever experience you want for your community. And Bluesky is the lobby in which to discover that. And so we're actually encouraging more community. I think this idea that community creates echo chambers is wrong. We've learned that going into a public square where somebody is shouting their opposite opinion at you is not going to change your mind, right? That's not how we work. And so what does it look like when it's actually cozier corners where you're hanging out, connecting with people with maybe similar viewpoints? And that's where adjacent viewpoints that they slightly have that's different from you, that's when we start expanding as people. And so that's what we're excited about for Bluesky is we've provided this big world, small world experience. You can go to your feed about, F1 to hang out with your friends there. And that's also how we show up to parties in the real life. You don't go to a big party by yourself. That's how it felt like on Twitter or on X. It was really intimidating. But you want to go into it with a group of people. That's what the starter packs on Bluesky are for. Here's a list of followers, people you probably already know. Here's some cozy corners, feeds that when you onboard to Bluesky, you land directly into that community rather than into a general big feed. That's how we go to parties. That's how we hang out with people offline. And so we want to keep encouraging these community spaces and for you to find other people like yourself. I think the other thing I would say is that for Bluesky, we are not tied to an advertising business model. We can put the end user first. And so all of our business models, all of the things that we're thinking about the future are aligned with user interest rather than advertiser interests. So you can kind of trust that that's just the way that we're incentivized because our infrastructure, our data is open rather than closed and private.
Does that mean that you mentioned cozier corners? I think about more intimate, they talk about low LPFMs, low power FM frequencies, like hyper local radio stations. If you're talking about that cozier corners, does that mean this will never really be a successful place for the mass media to come? People that do want to reach everybody, they're not really in a cozier corner. They want everybody to know what's going on with what they're doing.
It's not, I think there's a false choice between a cozier corner and a town square. Like you have to somehow only choose one or the other. And I think what Bluesky is providing you is actually you get both, and maybe not even both, even every other type of community size in between. And that's what you get with these feeds, where you can pin lots of different feeds and you have a global feed with our Discover feed. That's where a lot of the breaking news is happening. You can go see what's happening there. You can also see what's happening with a certain sports game or like a finale night. That is still a global conversation, but more communal because it's oriented around an event or a special interest. And so that is the type of flexibility these feeds are for. In the US, when we had our Super Bowl, we threw up 2 ephemeral feeds, one that was the Super Bowl feed and one that was Taylor Swift's Super Bowl feed. And that lasted us that night. It was great. And then we didn't need it anymore. And so that's what we provided is here's the building blocks to go build the room that you want to go build. It can last longer. And if you want to keep building it, great. If you want to just knock it down after tonight, that's up to you.
In an election, like a presidential election or a government election, there are a whole bunch of people who typically don't vote for the people in power, but they want to vote out the people in power. So they're not actively voting for the opposition. They're voting out the government. It feels like around the American situation at the moment with what happened with Twitter, that there are a whole bunch of people who are voting out against X by coming to you. So it's almost like a stand against X. How do you keep the momentum to have people voting? When I say voting, I mean signing up for Bluesky rather than this wave at the moment, which feels like it's against X?
No, that's a great question. There's always a question of, are people running away or are they running towards?
Yeah.
And I think there's not only running towards, but staying. That's like another question, right? When they come, are they staying? And so what we're really excited about is when South Korea called martial law 2 days ago, where was the place to follow that reporting live on the ground? Bluesky.
Right.
And what we think is that that's what's missing right now in the world. It's not something that we want to do. I think it's very imperative that there is a place that isn't partisan, that doesn't downrank political content, where we as global citizens can keep up with what's happening on the ground somewhere in the world. And right now, the only global platform that is bipartisan, that doesn't have a political viewpoint, that doesn't downrank links is Bluesky.
It can't stay like that though, can it? I mean, like being a bit of a pessimist, eventually the masses will develop that. Like what's happened with X is the masses have developed a toxic, horrible alt-right situation because that's who's gone there. If Bluesky is somewhat running away from that, somewhat looking for something new, I mean, over 10, 20, 30 years, too far, 5 years, 3 years, it's going to be hard to keep it sort of neutral, isn't it? Won't that be decided again by the users?
I think that this is what is exciting about Bluesky is that we're, again, used to this false dichotomy of either one global platform that you can talk or these smaller communities. What does it look like when there's room and space for all different types of communities to go create the space that's right for them, as long as they are following our terms of service and community guidelines, right? And not only that, I think it's about how we as a company are building incentives for different users that are in between intolerance, hate speech, and misinformation, and people having a bad time. There's a lot of things: rude posts, deep fakes, political content that's speculative. There's no guard against that on every other platform. On Bluesky, we've given the tools to users. You can go label posts as rude. You can label accounts as rude. Right? Users then can subscribe to that labeler, and you're providing a lot more context and also consequences for being rude in ways that aren't happening on other platforms. And so there's so much experimentation that needs to be done. And so for us to come to the conclusion that toxicity or humans always devolve into badness, I think is actually wrong. I actually think there's a lot of goodness in us. It's what we're discovering. And this guy's like, wait, where were all these people before? They were all there. They were just downranked by the algorithm.
I think that's a really good point. I know I've seen that play out in the last couple of weeks. I guess as Bluesky hits that sort of critical mass that it's got people's attention, is that there's been some real right wing, for lack of a better word, characters coming in and testing the waters in Bluesky, and their accounts lasting a matter of minutes in some cases, or hours, because they behave the same way that they do on Twitter, and people don't like it. So those accounts get blocklisted and reported. And I think the block listing is really important, because you can have that person in the town square spewing hate, and everybody's just like, well, I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to go to a different room or building or whatever. I'm not going to be in this space. Yeah. And it deprives them of what they're after, which is that rage engagement.
Totally.
And I think that's what drove me from Twitter. That drove is when they got rid of their safety advisory board, looking after vulnerable groups in that space.
Yeah,
I think that those people have certainly found a home here on Bluesky with the tools to protect themselves. So that should definitely be acknowledged.
Thank you, Chewie. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hey, I want to share something with you as well. We've been doing the hard work for Bluesky over here, just so you know. We had the leader of the opposition on last night. His name is Christopher Hipkins. So this here is Christopher Hipkins. He was our former, taking it back off you, Joey. He is our former Prime Minister. He was the last Prime Minister. So like in the New Zealand system, the equivalent of the president. And he is now in opposition. He's the leader of the opposition. And we were talking about how politics around the world, some politicians don't seem as clever to be engaged in independent media and news spaces. And we talked about Bluesky. And I want to play this for you. And I want to show you that before our show was finished last night, the leader of our opposition had signed up to Bluesky. Have a look.
I apologize, Chris. I'm a cheeky wee monkey. Not seeing New Zealand Labour there.
So his party wasn't on Bluesky yet. Not on Bluesky yet?
No, I'm not on Bluesky.
It's the fastest growing social media. The fastest growing social
Twitter,
media.
Right, it's replaced Twitter. Yeah.
Well, it's got 20 or 30. It's got 25 million users now. Twitter's got 330, so Twitter still dwarfs it. But it's Jack Dorsey. Is that right? His name, Chewie? Jack Dorsey. Darcy.
Yeah, the guy that set up Twitter when he sold it to Elon basically didn't sell him the source code, so just set up Twitter 2.0.
Yeah.
There's been a huge exodus to it. And it's growing.
Okay, yeah. Bluesky. Well, thank you. Something to follow up, or some homework from our discussion tonight.
Me and Chewie can be your first follow.
You know how sometimes it's.
And then this is the end of the show. Just 30 seconds here.
When no one listens to you.
In my life.
Yeah, just gonna.
Can't see any of that. Can you make it bigger?
You can't. Okay. Can I?
It's too small. It's because you've got that stupid vertical screen going on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. This is the list of people that have. This is people that have followed me tonight on Bluesky. And yes, Mr. Hipkins
followed you tonight.
is on Bluesky.
Goodness me.
There you go. 18 followers. He's following 4 people. Me, you, Blue Sky, and the Living Wage Movement, Aotearoa. There you go.
Good. There's one important one to follow in there, and that's the Living Wage. So we just thought we'd show you. We had the leader of our opposition sign up for you last night through our conversation. So we're doing the work for you, Rose, to sell the gospel of Blue Sky. I think it was Chewie, that's what we're doing.
Thank you both.
And talking of engagement in that less than 24-hour period, he's up to about 500 now. So hopefully that is a sign of more to come.
I'll be following him.
Your guys increase over the last several weeks. You've obviously scaled really quickly. I'm sure that comes with issues to do with, all of a sudden there's an influx of other things to do. But some of us who are now using it are really interested in the upcoming features, etc. So for me, one of the things I do use Twitter for a lot is putting video out on. I do pay Elon because if I don't, I can only put 2-minute clips up. And actually, I'm happy to do that. Do you have any idea, like scheduling and videos are the 2 things that I really want to see personally on Blue Sky. Do we have any idea as to when they're going to be coming out?
Yeah, great question. So scheduling, you can already do that with Buffer, which is a tool that lots of creators use. And we're working with a bunch of others like Sprinkler, Dash, Hudson. So that's going to be more and more available over time. And then in terms of just new features, videos, higher resolution images, all of that is coming. We really want to serve independent creators and journalists. And for us, it's just right now, let's keep the app online. And then you'll see us add a lot more features, basically provide these robust experiences for you guys, either through us or through partners.
And of course, as soon as you do that, Rose, then we can tell everyone about it and get them to sign up as well. This is evidence is there for it. Hey, it's been lovely to speak to you today. Thank you so much for giving us some time. Chewie, you got anything else you want to ask Rose before we say sign up?
Yeah. Talking about how fast this is expanding now, what is the vibe in your team? Is it just sort of sitting back and going, oh my God, we've cracked it. This feels amazing. I mean, the vibe must be pretty good at Blue Sky HQ.
Yeah, well, I think that we as adults can feel many things all at once. And so it's a lot of emotions. But I do think that there's an overwhelming excitement and just appreciation for, when you're working on your idea, it really does feel like a baby. Ideas themselves have a life of their own. And for so long, we just didn't know if this was something that resonated with other people. And, do they care about choice? Do they really care about their rights when convenience is so much better? And I think it's really validating and timely that Blue Sky has been building this for the last few years.
Yeah. All right. Hey, look, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for jumping in. And look, if you ever need any creators to kind of do some testing of like hosting video and stuff, we're happy down here in New Zealand to be a little test place for you. We could do that. Is there anything else, Rose, you want to tell our audience about Blue Sky or anything in general, just to leave people with what they need to know? Have we missed anything?
You guys covered a lot of it. I think the last thing I just want to say is democracy is built for the people, by the people. You have to be engaged in the building or else it doesn't happen. And it's the same thing with Blue Sky is if we want a more democratic online social world, you have to build with us.
We can hear a dog barking in the background. What kind of dog have you got? It's very important to this podcast.
It's not mine. It must be a neighbor's.
Oh, really?
That would be my dog.
Oh, Chewie. That's Chewie's dog. I thought that was. I apologize about that.
I wish I had.
All right. Well, you can share ours. That's my one. She sits in the studio with me when we're doing stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Rose, thank you so much for joining us. Genuinely, I understand how. Well, I don't understand, but I can guess how incredibly busy you must be right now. So we don't take it for granted that you gave us 20 minutes and wish you all the best. And we'll be watching from this side of the world as to what's happening with Blue Sky with bated breath, especially with those new features.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Rose.